hopefully they'll get married. Some of these younger mothers and some of the other fellows that are there with some of these young women today. I'm not knocking that, so please don't take that anywhere. But what I'm saying is public housing was something to be admired. There were people fighting and really begging to get in public housing. The lawns were manicured and trimmed every Friday. We had those old push mowers. Didn't have no electric power mowers. And myself and a lot of folks would go down to the housing authority, and we could rent a lawnmower for about 25 cents or something like that. And we'd go around to houses that were on our route, people we'd made that allowed us to become services to them, or they were our customers is what I'm trying to say. And we would cut their grass and trim it nice with that old push mower. And family members would make their sons go down, and they could get the lawnmowers for free and go ahead and cut their front and back lawns. I remember people in public housing having flower gardens, beautiful flower gardens. And everybody in public housing, just like we, that didn't live in public housing, but we were all in one big community and we didn't really see that. We went to school with those kids right over at Elber School there. And they were our friends. And we hung out. And my sisters and some of my buddies' sisters were very tight and close. We were a close-knit community. We were the village. We were the village to raise the child. And if someone saw you out of whack and doing something wrong, they would correct you, and then the message would be home to your parents before you got there. They would get on your case as well. We had a village back then, but the village has come loose. And the village has come loose for what I've stated, going back to the economic condition, the loss of jobs and employment, and the loss of a lot of cutbacks with our government, social service programs in the city, county, and state. And as a result of that, we're suffering very dear today with a multitude of problems. You take all that, you take the jobs away, you take away the services, they get reduced for whatever the reason, and we don't try to put them back. And then we turn around and have the influx of drugs all over and in our community. People getting hooked one by one by one by one. And next thing you know, we got a community of almost walking zombies. People that are addicted, that are caught up, that just have no sense of being, no sense of caring, and almost, for the most part, don't even really know what day it is because of chasing the drug of choice. So when you couple all that, I remember down on 6th and Church, where the mother church is now, 6th and Church. I remember down where the parking lot of Emmanuel Brother Rob's daycare center, right in back of the Knotty Pond, and that great big parking lot they have there between the Y and the Knotty Pond restaurant. I remember down 3rd and Madison, we had these hide factories where the cows would be stripped of their hides, dried out, and the leather would be prepared. The food products of the cow, the beef, whatever would be prepared. These were these hide factories that did this all over the city. And as a result, they employed hundreds and hundreds of people. Hundreds of people. They're all gone now. And I can remember people complaining about the stench in the summertime from those L.I. Kid hide shops and whatnot in those areas. And sometime on a real good hot windy day, the city of Wilmington would have a stench that would almost upset your stomach. But there were good and decent people, men and women, majority men, that worked in those places proudly and did a job, an honest day's work for an honest dollar. And that's the way that they were able to go cash their paycheck very proudly, go home and take a bath, and from there clean themselves up. And on Saturday, go downtown, Wilmington Dry Goods, discount store, very, very reasonable. Go downtown on east side of King Street, all the way lined up with the farmers that would come to town with fresh produce and meats and fresh meats and things. Very reasonable. Everybody went downtown. I remember going down with my mother and father on Saturday. sitting in the car waiting on them to come back as they were shopping. As a little boy, that was the village that's gone now. That's gone now. And we, the black leadership, are not working anywhere near in unity close enough together to help knit that community back together. We've lost those jobs. We've lost other jobs in the city of Wilmington, in the state of Delaware, and it's costing us. We look at the reentry programs and all the money poured into reentry. And we look at all the things that are supposed to be available to train and to help an inmate that tries to go the right path as he's incarcerated, comes out and want to get his life together, only to find in a lot of cases that the promises fall short of what was supposed to be there when he got out and when he got home. It's a sad commentary, and it hurts my heart because I know the black leadership for which I saw back in the day. Dutch Burton, when he was a lone city councilman with other city councilmen from the black community, Dutch would start more stuff than Carter got little liver pills. But Dutch was right, and he was willing to take a stand and suffer the consequences. And that's what opened up the segregated restaurants downtown, where we couldn't even go into 5 and 10, where Walgreens is now. It used to be Happy Harry's at 9th and Market, and couldn't go in there and sit to the lunch counter and order a sandwich or a hot dog or get a cold soda in the summer times. So I'm talking about black leadership back in the day. That's what I'm talking about. You know, in Southbridge, Senator Holloway, born and reared, well, not born, but grew up as a young boy, young man. When my grandfather left Savannah, Georgia, my grandfather and grandmother, they tell me, had a very lucrative restaurant there and did pretty well. And my uncle John Hawk Holloway, my dad's brother, thought he was a slickster, dressed nice, and was a ladies' man. And John Hawk had got himself in some trouble and had messed up, and along the way of somehow, it was said that John Hawk, white man slapped John Hawk, and John Hawk hauled off and slapped him back and took off running. And they were hunting for John Hawk, my dad's brother, to kill him and hang him to the nearest tree. My grandfather packed up, he and my grandmother, and took his non-hitter chillin', as he used to say. My father had 8 other brothers and sisters. And anyway, he headed north. And he came up here to Delaware. And he stopped in St. George's. He stopped in Delaware City for a minute. And then he ended up here in Wilmington, right in Southbridge, right at the corner of B Street and South Hill Street. My grandfather bought the only 3-story building in Southbridge. It was an old rooming house, and the first floor was a pool room. And as a result, that allowed rooms for all my dad's brothers and sisters, and he and my grandmother to be able to be adequately housed, if you will. So again, I'm talking about the history. Senator Holloway grew up the majority of his adult life and into adulthood in Southbridge, became the highest ranking African-American elected official to the state Senate. I get elected, born and reared in Southbridge, as state representative. The first black state representative ever elected right around on B Street, down from my grandfather's house, was what they called Uncle Jim Winchester. Jim Winchester lived right down in the next block. That was when he was a Republican, when Republicans controlled the city of Wilmington. Arthur Scott, who became city councilman later on, was born and reared in Southbridge on Apple Street. Norman Oliver, also Norman Oliver from Southbridge. We had some very powerful players of leadership with a lot of courage back in the day. And I grew up under that tutorship. I grew up watching them, and that's why I'm so hard-nosed and stubborn as I am. And on some issues, there's no reverse for me. There's no reverse. We got to bring it and we got to deal with it. There's no reverse. If it's not right, until you can show me or convince me that maybe I'm pushing too hard and I'm wrong, and I'll humbly back off and apologize. But until I see that, there's no reverse. Again, Tuesday night, 6 p.m., I will be over at Baynard Apartment. Hope to see you there and talk with you a minute. Not for a shouting match and a lot of confusion, but I want to talk to you. No one in public housing, if you're hanging in there and doing right and respecting your neighbors, no one's going to be put out for bringing the issue. Let me just say that I want to commend the late Mel Slaw. I want to commend Mel Slawwick, who's just retired from the Public Defender's Office on January 1. They gave a dinner for him. It was very well attended. And Mel had been with the Public Defender's Office for about 20 years now. Former state senator, former state representative, and former county executive. Mel's a good guy, and hey, we all stumble. Nobody down here has a halo. I got to see, and I did honor at that dinner, I honored our dear friend Larry Sullivan, who just was a champion of the cause of the little fella. And Larry is the one that built that Public Defender's Office into what it is today and done a great job. Larry was there, and we honored Larry. And Joe Connor, lastly, Joe Connor, who's now at the Addiction Coalition, was a good friend of Senator Holloway's, my dad, and I see him laughing and talking in the senator's office, and Dad really enjoyed his company. We at the Kingcenter honored Joe Connor as well for his continued hard work and for thinking to step out of the box and to honor Mel Slawwick. Don't forget to pick up your Our Independent paper. It's full of very fine and front page stories and all through the paper, helping to better educate. And buy a paper, buy 4 or 5 of them, and help out the person that's selling them that you see moving through the community. The money goes back to them to help them to be able to get their life back. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the program, and let me just share with you on next week, I will be having some folks on with me that are going to be involved in a boxing match down at in Atlantic City. It's going to be a pretty good fight, pretty good scorecard. I'll tell you about that on next week. And again, don't forget Ed Osborne, Osborne's Auto, 104 A Street, 658-0377, 658-0377. Check Ed out. You tell him I sent you by. Until next time, God bless.